Greetings, Grimdark enjoyers. This past weekend I ran a custom game mode for a local convention called Mana and Monsters. The table you see here served as the narrative island for the Warhammer side of the con. The opportunity to do this was offered up by my local game store Fantasy Forged, so big thanks for the opportunity. Though it was a sort of last-minute effort, I had about 3 weeks to put it all together, and so all of my hobby time went towards prepping a few pieces and a rapid series of playtesting and prototyping, thus explaining the lack of regular content on the channel as of late. But thankfully, I didn't start from scratch, as I had some concepts stashed away. And the playtesting phase proved to be consistently positive, with those who engaged expressing enthusiasm due to the sheer fun yielded by its design. On the topic of playtesting, a thank you goes out to my dauntless few. You know who you are. And that same vibe carried through to the event itself, with multiple players expressing a desire for the rules to be made public so they could run this Extermination Mode with their own playgroups. Which honestly is a big win for the system in my books. Now that the event is wrapped, content on the channel will return to a more regular pace. But the focus of this video is a breakdown of the custom mode which debuted at the event. I'll share the design intent, the core gameplay loop, the fundamental design pillars, and some concepts for where we go from here. And of course, all the materials for running your own games are linked in the description. Welcome to Riftfall Extermination. What is it? I suppose it makes the most sense to briefly explain what Riftfall Extermination is. So, Riftfall Extermination is a custom Warhammer 40K game mode, offering a PvE co-op experience, where each player takes command of a single mighty Astartes. These operatives are enhanced from their 40K counterparts to a more narratively appropriate standard. They deploy into a densely packed 4-foot-by-4-foot battlefield, in a sort of Helldivers style, leveraging the much-beloved scatter die, as endless waves of Tyranids continually arrive from reserves. The TLDR is, it's Space Marine 2 on the tabletop. The core gameplay loop follows much in line with standard Warhammer 40K. Activations are structured in battle rounds, with each round possessing a Tyranid's turn and a Space Marine's turn. The Tyranid's turn always takes place at the top of the round. Units are activated throughout the familiar phases of a turn: command phase, movement phase, shooting, charge, fight phase. All the Space Marine players are on the same team, and so they share the same turn, allowing them to coordinate their efforts towards achieving victory. There are a couple of tweaks to the usual activations available in phases, but those are the broad strokes. In the Space Marines command phase, up to 3 mission cards are drawn, up to a max of 3. And when those missions are achieved, each operative gets to draw 1 stratagem card, granting them single-use perks like Go to Ground, All-Out Attack, Auto-Advancing 6 inches, and more. And at the end of the Tyranid's turn, more of the swarm arrives from reserves. The amount of units which are set up is dictated by the number of active operatives, though there is a mission card which modifies that. It's a gameplay loop that rewards collaboration and ensures there are unexpected twists and turns. Design pillars. Next, I think it makes sense to go over the design pillars or goals, as I personally find it useful to know the designer's intent when it comes to custom systems. They are as follows. Newbie friendly. I wanted a game mode that was friendly, or as easy to casually jump into as it could be by Warhammer standards. There's a kind of knife edge to ride in this regard, as I also felt it best to stay within 10th edition 40K's core rules. Now, channel fans will know I have my issues with 10th edition 40K, but broadly speaking, I don't believe 10th edition's problems are its core rules. That stated, the task of only having to manage a unit of 1 certainly reduces the mental load relative to standard games of 40K. And the roster of pre-made operatives, 1 being from each chapter, also does a good job of showcasing the general themes and flavors associated with each of the first founding chapters, allowing those unfamiliar to look at an operative and determine if that's their vibe. Oh, the Blood Angels operative can fly around with a jump pack and likes to fight in melee, huh? Well, let's go. The next design pillar is prioritizing player agency. Essentially, I always want Space Marine operatives to feel like they have options, that they aren't helpless or ineffectual. They should feel like they are actors which can drive outcomes. There are a few mechanics and core rules changes which serve this, but I think the best feature which speaks to this pillar is the unique rule I've given to all Space Marine operatives, Angels of Death. This Angels of Death rule allows all operatives to not only fall back and shoot with a -1 to hit penalty, but also the ability to fall back and charge, as well as the ability to shoot into ongoing combats, also with a -1 to hit penalty. Now you might be thinking, oh my god, so all Space Marines can always fall back, shoot, and charge? And shoot into enemy units in engagement range? That sounds completely broken. There's virtually no penalty for tagging units. But, hypothetical viewer I'm using for this example, you'd be wrong for thinking that. For one, this is a PvE game mode rather than PvP. Even when another player is piloting the Tyranid swarm, it's a game mode where the Space Marines are the stars of the show. But beyond that thematic justification, having all units freely able to fall back, shoot, and charge is only broken in the context of 40K or other full-sized wargames, where a single player is commanding multiple units across an army, wherein the design space better harnesses the steep consequence of falling back in exchange for acting in the rest of a turn. Essentially, if you only have one unit, it's actually quite reasonable to preserve player agency, though there still should be a penalty for falling back, and I've opted for a milder one. Units which do so suffer one mortal wound to represent the attacks of opportunity they would suffer from disengaging. The third pillar is facilitating a dynamic narrative experience. A few design choices exemplify this. Inspire and out of action. Meeting certain conditions, Space Marine operatives earn battle power, such as when they destroy enemy units and complete missions. When an operative reaches 10 battle power, their data card flips to their Inspired side, granting an additional ability and recharging their one-shot ability. When an operative falls to 0 wounds, they uninspire, and must pass an out-of-action test to see if they get back up to continue the fight. These two systems allow for those cinematic high points, where operatives can inspire, or to rise after being laid low, and achieve victory against the odds. But they also serve to enable those all-important tragic cinematic low points as well. Rerolls. I've also expressed an intentional design choice to exclude rerolls. As I've mentioned in my rerolls video, narrative play, to me, is about attempting to do X and encountering unexpected outcomes or scenarios, which you must deal with. And allowing dice to describe things going poorly is crucial to those ends. And the last point which serves this third pillar are the randomly generated missions and Tyranid spawns, which I alluded to when describing the core gameplay loop. For my local event, I created cards which could be drawn to handle missions, stratagems, and enemy spawning. But the requirement to make cards does serve as a barrier, especially for those unsure if they like the system, but are interested enough to want to try it out. So instead of making cards to handle missions and stratagems, I've adapted the results into tables which players can roll on. And as far as the Tyranid spawning deck is concerned, you can actually just use a deck of 52 playing cards, with different card types relating to the specified enemy tiers shown here. Numbers can be Minoris units, face cards can be Majoris units, aces can be Extremis, and jokers can serve as your Terminus units. Or if you play other trading card games, just load up a deck with mana or energy or whatever you want, and assign them as desired. Better looking tables. And the last design pillar is to facilitate a game mode that can make functional use of traditional terrain. Classic terrain. Terrain of different types. The kind of terrain that makes battlefields feel more believable. As a narrative-first player, I despise tournament L-shaped ruin battlefields. I want a game mode that incentivizes cinematic environments, the sort of environments which make the effort of painting your models feel worthwhile. And so movement rules have been included to enable operatives to leap across gaps, use ladders, the ability to drop down from tall heights without costing all of your movement, and using true line of sight to determine visibility and the benefits of cover. All modifications made so that operatives can functionally interact with terrain which inspires the imagination. In summary, those are the 4 design pillars Riftfall Extermination aims to meet. to be newbie-friendly, ensuring player agency is prioritized, and offering dynamic, narratively driven experiences while encouraging the use of tasteful battlefield terrain. All of which feels to have been met by the player's experiences thus far. That is essentially the broad overview of Riftfall Extermination. It's a system that really shines when a group of players formulate plans leveraging their unique strengths to accomplish the mission, while fighting against waves of the Tyrannid Swarm with variable enemy encounters, all under a framework of rules to push player agency while being devoid of rerolls, which creates instances of dynamic desperation and those down-to-the-wire Hail Mary moments. As for going forward, I do have several ideas. There is ripe ground here for expansions. I think enemy force supplements for Necrons, Orcs, Chaos Cultists, or even Chaos Demons could slot in fairly easily. It's also fairly obvious a similar framework could work quite naturally for Chaos Space Marines, though I think for them it would be much more satisfying to have them engage with the Imperial Guard rather than Tyrannids. It just allows for them to be badder dudes, if you know what I mean. But before any of that, I think there is an important system which is lacking, a must-have feature which needs to be addressed. And that would be rules which govern the creation of custom operatives. There is a creative core which I feel is integral to Warhammer and the tabletop wargaming hobby more broadly. And in Riftfall Extermination, a system for custom operatives would see it served. But I want to do it properly. Unlike GW, I want Wargear to be accessible. Specifically, I want the full armory of the Astartes to be available. None of this soulless, you can only equip what comes in the box. Cause you see, unlike GW, I believe tabletop wargames should encourage and enable creative hobby efforts. It's a hobby-first position. So, Salamanders, you can have your Inferno pistols, finally. Raven Guard Jump Pack fans, your Lightning Claws will be available. To better harness that, I believe a progressive, Mordheim-esque framework can integrate into what I've done thus far rather elegantly, where custom Space Marine operatives have progression paths. I think it would be very fun for players to take a Space Marine from Battle Brother to Sergeant to Lieutenant and Captain. And it would also serve as an offering which Riftfall Extermination could provide uniquely. And as that progression is made, it would open up your available budget for Wargear. Both of those two features lend towards a paradigm where players would be rewarded for magnetizing their operatives. Even the very Codex-compliant chapters can have fun swapping their helmets when promoting to Sergeants. And the last component of that sort of system would be a more fleshed-out victory condition. One that serves the aforementioned progression system of custom operatives. Right now it's just an extermination kill count, with endless missions and enemies. It's a game mode basically just yielding a high score sort of end result. But I think the Mordheim template, with a set of missions and criteria for extraction, would suffice. And that's what I have in mind for the future of this extermination mode. In any case, you can find the rules materials for Riftfall Extermination in the description of this video. And just so we're clear, these are beta rules. So if what is described here sparks joy, please don't hesitate to give them a download and share your experiences here in the comments, as that will probably be the best way to express advocacy or share suggestions for this extermination mode. Also, feel free to let me know if you guys would enjoy a more in-depth video or live stream covering the rules documentation, or if other video types are of interest. Things like how to play or battle reports. If the interest is there, I'm all for it. Well, that's a wrap on this one. If you enjoyed this video, there are buttons for liking, sharing, and subscribing. And special thanks to Julius Maximus, as well as my other generous patrons and channel members. Channel members and patrons get early access to regular channel videos, as well as free access to various STL doodads. Just a little something for those who help keep the dream alive. Anyways, thanks again for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one.